Hey everybody, what's going on? Rob Cesternino back here with you for our Amazing Race 35. Can you believe it? We're ready to go. 90-minute episodes, the biggest Amazing Race season ever. And we're back to cover it with you all season long. First, let's bring back our chief Amazing Race correspondent. It's Jessica Liese. Jess, how are you?
Doing great, Rob. I'm sorry I was a little bit late getting here because I was a little tied up, but I'm back here now, ready to talk it
Yes.
all out.
All right, ready to talk it all through. Just are we at officially a decade of covering the Amazing Race? Are we past that?
I think we started in 2012, Rob. So
Okay, wow.
we're coming up on
Year
11 years.
11 of
Year
covering
11.
the Amazing Race, if you can believe it. All right. So excited to get into all of that here with a man who's ready for whatever detours come his way. Give it up for Mike Bloom.
Well, first off, happy anniversary. I've gotten you a podcast couples Thai massage if you are
Oh,
interested. But yeah, right now I'm dressed to the nines. I just made my way across the tightrope to get here. So I guess I'll say fiasco gently, ocean fly gist. Am I close, Derek and Claire? Am I close at all? Do I get my clue?
no, goes in safely.
Oh, okay. Well, look, I should have gone with the full Bloom answer.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So there you go. All right. So we're excited to be back here for the Amazing Race. Jess, how would you describe Mike's costume for the people who are listening to the podcast only?
Well, this is definitely this is a mid-tier Mike Bloom costume, I would say.
Mhm.
He's not wearing a pair of tiny shorts with Phil's face over his
It's not
area.
suggestive.
No, he's wearing a what appears to be a harness and a helmet, as if he has just stepped off the tightrope.
Mhm.
And I don't know, is there he could just be going on a bike ride. I don't know.
Okay. All right.
Listen,
Either
at least
one
I'm
would
not
work.
riding the bike on the tightrope that did in our friends Corey and Tyler back in the day.
Oh
Once upon a
yes.
time. Okay. All right. So we have a whole new slew of teams, 13 teams. Is this the biggest race cast we've had? Yep. And now,
In the US.
Yeah, as long as you're not in Australia, yes, that's the case.
all right. So we got a big cast. We've got some twists and turns back and 90-minute episodes. So a lot to talk about here for the Amazing Race 35. Of course, you want to make sure that you are locked in with us all season long. You could subscribe to our Amazing Race podcast feed, where not only will we have these recaps, but also our exit interviews that we will be bringing you. Jess and I will talk with the teams that are eliminated on Thursdays. So be on the lookout for that. Mike, I know you'll be talking with the teams as well over on parade.com.
Yes, and it will be a weekly endeavor, as Phil confirmed on the mat. One of many things happening this season. And while some old school elements are returning, a new school element is also coming back for the second season in a row. We're continuing, Rob, your loving tradition, no non-elimination legs. So, I mean, the reason why they cast 13 teams is that I do think we're going to try to involve the kind of wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Oh, it's a mega leg. It's not technically a non-elimination leg. Or maybe
Yeah.
they're padding out in case we get another Will and Abby COVID situation.
Yeah, it'll be interesting that in like the 2023 of it all, if a team gets COVID, do we stop the race? Do they just power through? I'm not sure exactly what the rules are going to be, but I'd be surprised if we lose another team to a COVID scare. But we'll find out.
We could see it might be a situation like they've done in Canada and Australia, where if you get COVID, they just quarantine you until you're done quarantining and then they let you back in.
Mm-hmm. We'll
So
see. All
we'll
right.
see. I doubt
Unique
it, but
times. All right. And now we're back on the regular flights, no charters and anything like that. So this is seemingly a little bit more back to pre-COVID Amazing Race. Some twists are back here. Okay, what's our reaction? Okay, first, Jess, the Express Pass is going to be back this season.
I like the execution of the Express Pass here.
Mm-hmm.
I have some notes, which I'm sure, like as we get further into the episode, I will get into it. But I've always liked the Express Pass, where you have to choose if you're going to go for it, and you have to complete something and potentially blow up your spot in front to get it.
Yep.
It's it really bugged me when it was just like a
Oh,
leg
I see what
prize,
you did
or if
there.
it was, yes,
Yeah.
totally unintentional. But I know nothing gets by you, Rob. Um, it it is annoying when people get it as like the prize for winning a leg. It's like rewarding you for being out in front by pushing you further out in front. Or if it's just random, as they tried to do a couple of times, felt completely like an afterthought. But I like having a side quest. I've always liked the express pass side quest of it all, and this one was a throwback. So much of this episode was a throwback in all the best ways. This was
Yeah.
classic Amazing Race.
Yeah, nature was healing in so many ways with Amazing Race. I
Life
agree,
finds a way, Mike.
and I do think if we're talking about evolutionary perspectives, I mean, also, absence makes the heart grow fonder. I do certainly remember when the two of you were podcasting, 11 years ago, talking about like the Amazing Race 23, when there was always so much drama every season about who has the express pass, who's giving an express pass away. And that became such the focal point of the drama on the show that it started to get a little old. It's been a long time,
Did
not
we not
since
like that?
I think it got repetitive at a certain point. And I think, again, your mileage may vary as a fan of the show as to like whether you are into the strategy and the drama of it. There are certainly people that are saying, I don't watch Survivor and Big Brother for those reasons. I want to watch The Amazing Race for the teams, for the task proper. We haven't seen the Express Pass since season 29, since the Perfect Strangers season. So I think it's a very return welcome. Also, it doesn't seem, at least in this moment, that we're giving away multiple express passes, that our sisters don't necessarily have another one to give away. So I don't think we're going to have that much drama around it. So I think, to Jess's point, it is, for lack of a better term, walking that perfect tightrope of
Yeah.
bringing in this convention without necessarily having to like use it as a crutch to continue making TV.
And
I
is
would
this it?
honestly love it if we saw it again.
Yeah.
Like if we give away a second one later on with a different side quest, I'm into that. I like the idea of it not just being like a staple of the first leg that becomes this like fount of drama. Like let's just have it be one thing that you can put in your tool belt.
Yeah, I feel like it should be like the hidden immunity idol. If the sisters play it, like, okay, now there's a new express pass that gets put into the game.
Well,
It's
there's
something
advanced
about that.
planning
That's the
involved.
thing, yeah. Because I don't know if they have like an expiration date. I certainly know in Canada, when they give out express passes like candy, you have to give them away by a certain point and you have to play them at a certain point. If it's designed for them to only have to play it in the first 5 legs, you can easily set something up in leg 6. Otherwise, that's a little difficult to plan for. They have enough difficulties planning the course on its own, let alone having to accommodate an entirely new task, possibly.
I'm just saying that we can put in a different cart of like eat exotic insects in wherever we go.
The same person going to every location,
Yeah.
following Phil and the camera people around.
What's that line on
Yeah.
your resume?
Yeah.
Bug wrangler?
Different, you would maybe like tailor it to wherever you are. Here's the maggot cheese, here's whatever, wherever you are. So I think they could make
Is
it
what, like the lunch lady from Billy Madison?
Extra
yes,
sloppy.
yes, okay, all right. And then also the U-turn is here, but not the classic U-turn, the U-turn vote. Mike, am I correct that this was the one that got used on the Amazing Race Reality Star edition?
Yes, which is the last time we saw the U-turn. So we're going full limbo on this U-turn. It is mandatory. It must be used and you must vote. You cannot abstain. Now, this is interesting because in season 31, they did the vote before the leg started. They were like, I remember Phil giving the big speech of like, we're in Switzerland, the source of all neutrality. Therefore, you need to pick a side and vote for the person that will automatically be U-turned on this leg. This is going to have a bit more of an organic placement in the leg for them to approach the U-turn, and then it seems put in a vote, but I'm not entirely sure how that's done. Where, I don't know, when does a majority get accrued enough for a team to find out that they're U-turned? I'm assuming this is a single U-turn rather than a double U-turn. I have a lot of questions about this. Suffice it to say, this is also another source of drama, another source of conflict. I find this a bit more organic in the structure than the Express Pass drama always was. I think back to, season 20 with Brenchel and Vanessa and Ralph and, Art and JJ and everyone feuding over that. So I'm excited for it. We're getting airport drama back and we're getting U-turn drama back.
Yeah, I'm gonna add, Mike. We want to go deeper into the Amazing Race nerdery here of it all because the first place that we saw this democratic U-turn was actually in Australia, in what has largely been regarded as one of the best seasons of any Amazing Races. Australia season 2, and they deployed it a couple of different times, and you just had to like stick your picture on the board, and whoever had the most photos by their photo got the U-turn, and it was a reliable source of like the good kind of drama. So I think if we tend more towards that, I didn't like that everybody stands in a circle and raises their hand of the reality star season. So if we can deploy it correctly, and it looks like we've got some artwork to that effect, I think this could be a lot of fun.
Okay. How did we feel about episode 1 of the brand new season?
It, no, you just said it was a bit of a return to form in many ways. I do feel like from a structural perspective, it was kind of continuing what we've been experiencing with the Amazing Race as of late, which is I really enjoy the teams. This batch of teams in particular, sometimes you think biggest batch ever. Is there a couple of, pieces of chaff on the wheat? I don't think so. I think there's like 13 really interesting teams that I'm excited to break down. It comes at the cost, in my opinion, of like a bit of a lackluster course. I think people were hoping, and of course, some other stuff that's come out behind the scenes since the cast was released was that this was actually the 36th season of The Amazing Race that was filmed, because essentially they found out in between filming season 35 and season 36 in their books, oh, we're doing this 90-minute thing for the fall. And so they came in with all intents and purposes preparing for 90-minute episodes. People assumed, okay, that's going to be more tasks per leg. The fact of the matter is we didn't get it this time around, and maybe that was strategic on their part to be like, well, we're going to use the first episode's allotment to let us get to know the teams a bit more, which I think we did. I'm hopeful that moving forward, we do get more stuff than just route info, detour, roadblock, pit stop, because that's what we got in this episode, and it felt a little scant to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Amazing Grace Canada can cram like 8 tasks into a 1-hour episode. You would think we could do a little better here on iSide, but then, of course, they overcorrect by casting the 13 teams, and they have to keep track of 26 people, which is a lot of people to keep track of, even if you have an extra half hour to get to know them. I do think, though, I have very few notes on the actual structure and order of the tasks. Like, I think I'm much, much higher on the tasks than Mike is for this season, for this episode in particular, because I think a lot of the stuff that I always complain about, this has been corrected here. I really don't have very much that I can complain about this episode. And, it's a first episode. I think the first episode is always kind of meh. Like the first episode and the last episode always kind of meh. The good stuff is always in the middle. So
Yeah.
for a first episode, I thought it was well designed, and I would have liked more to do, but the stuff we did do, I largely do not have a problem with.
Overall, yeah, I thought that the first episode was very fun. If I was going to just ask a question, and you two have such an eye for this, more so than I do, I felt like that on the Thailand side of it, it felt like a little bit light in terms of what we were doing. It was basically they got off the plane, and then there was the opportunity to get the express pass, but then it was then just basically go to the detour and then go to the mat.
And I think part of that might be because we are confirmed to be spending another leg in Thailand as well. And not to say that Thailand is not rife with activity. And I think that did come at the expense of like this new thing that I'm interested in, which was this sort of at home first roadblock before they even ended up going to the airport. But yeah, that's sort of where my chief, I think, nitpick lies, that it did feel like, okay, we aren't spending a lot of time here. I think it is balanced out by the idea that we are going to be here next time and doing other stuff. And I think it's just, to Jess's point, perhaps a balancing of the premiere of we have so many teams, we can't have so many tasks on top of that.
And I would have a problem with it being light if we saw that teams landed and then got everything done really, really fast and breezed through the whole course. But these were difficult tasks to the point where half the teams had a 90-minute lead on the other teams, and the other teams caught up. So we know that this was not a total cakewalk. And I think like we look back to like the much hated season 24, where you'd have 3 teams that would get on a later flight and they'd be 4 hours behind everybody else and no hope of catching up. Like, we've learned from that. We have figured out how to structure this such that that doesn't happen. And if there'd been no switching of order, if nobody had had a real problem with a task, if there were no actual choices to be made, I'd have more of a problem with it.
All right, so I want to go through the cast as they ended up finishing this first leg of the Amazing Race and sort of do like a backdoor cast preview to talk about all these 13 teams. But I guess let's just talk about the tasks up front, and then we could talk about how the teams individually did in all of them. And we had basically this first task, which was at the Biltmore Hotel. And then we kind of really threw the contestants into the fray right away as Mike is dressed to walk across the tightrope.
Yeah, I mean, classic Amazing Race task, right? Heights. I think it really is that sort of trial by fire moment, to your point, Rob, of like, hey, can you read these prompts correctly and make a good decision? Which it seemed like by and large, the majority of the teams did. The only exception I can really think of are Liam and Jeremy, who did rock, paper, scissors, despite the fact that one of them is afraid of heights, which didn't make a lot of sense to me. I love that there was an additional element to this. I think that's what made this for me, that made it different from another heights task. We saw this a bit last season as well, right? With the people that were adjudicating this task of, okay, you have to make your way across, but then your brain is so jumbled from all the adrenaline or panic that then you also have to solve this puzzle on top of it. And it ended up causing what I think was unintentionally like the first choke point of the season, where at one point 11 teams were all at the same spot, just staring at a bunch of letters like the final Wheel of Fortune puzzle, trying to figure out exactly what City of Angels was.
Yeah, and this is what made it great, honestly. Because my complaint about all these heights tasks most of the time is that only one team at a time can go, and then you just do the task and there's no chance to switch things up. There's no skill involved. You might have some drama if somebody's afraid of heights, and that's it. But here we had 3 tightropes in tandem that people could be on. So we cut back on that. And then in order to finish the task, you had to stand at the other side and figure out that puzzle, which meant that it wasn't just a matter of who got there first, because it all takes the same amount of time. So I thought this was really elegant. I especially like having it on home soil before we get to the airport, because it really throws you, like you said, Mike, it throws you into the thick of it, but it's also, you're then not just rewarding the people that get to the airport first. Like, the tasks are an integral part of this again, in ways that I think, like, I like it when it's a nice balance of like whoever is doing well is both navigating well and performing well in the tasks. And here you had to get right in there and perform a task before you were even allowed to leave the country. And I would like to see more of this. I've always liked it when they do this.
So we had Derek X and Claire back, and it's kind of fitting because Claire, really had to overcome her adversity with fear of heights.
Do you think they made her do the tightrope before they started?
I hope not.
No, she would have said no. She would have said, I do not care if I get the extra camera time. I am obsessed with this choice for many reasons. First, I adore Derek and Claire so much, but there's a very sizable chance they're like, looking for Amazing Race teams in the LA area to please come and stand in the corner of this rooftop and listen. They were, I think, the perfect task judges. And that, listen, these are seasoned reality TV people at this point. They know how to give it to them a bit. Whether it's Derek's classic bazinga of like, unfortunately, here's your clue, which is the swerve to end all swerves. Talk about the return of a U-turn. And then at one point during the montage where they're giving all these terrible a reward to fix wishing type of answers, Claire just like guffaws at one of them openly in disdain.
Yeah. I like Derek's jacket also.
Yeah, they were very stylish.
Yeah, the purple pants going on.
Yeah. Okay. So what I was a little confused about, and this is where we get to, okay, there's a bunch of people that are seemingly in line to go up and answer the thing, but nobody has the answer except for Todd, who is 6th in line. And he says, let me cut the line and I'll give you all the answer. And they agree, to which he does. But what I am confused about is, what are they in line for if they do not know the answer? Is
Well,
it
I think
just like you get like squatters' rights if you get there first? Of
I
like,
think you might be at a point where you have looked at that thing enough that you're not going to get any further by just looking at it. So you might as well
Yeah.
go and guess something.
It's like going to the detour a bit with the swords dancing. Like, yeah, you might want to go back and practice. Sometimes you just want to keep going again and again, knowing that
yeah.
you might get it at some point.
Or is it the kind of thing where it's like, okay, you have your number for like the bakery, and it's like, I don't know what I'm ordering yet, but I'm just gonna keep staring at this thing until it's my turn to go up there.
But in that case, Todd's like, I'm buying everyone's baked goods today if you put me at the front of the line.
Was this a good move?
This is
No!
a terrible move.
No, it's an awful move. I adore Todd because he is doing way too much already, and that makes me so happy.
He's very extra. Like, you look at that team and you think this is a team that is not going to be the most exciting TV. But every so often you get a team where it's like, oh, that's the boring couple team, but then they surprise you. And I think this is a team that's going to surprise us over and over.
See, I don't know if they're going to be a boring couple team, and we'll talk about them more when we go through everything, but they're the couple that was almost divorced. So I kind of feel like that there's high upside for them being some good TV, there being some drama there.
The second I saw their prom photo in which he is holding a basketball, the moment I knew they would never be boring TV.
Yeah, who takes a basketball to the prom? Or was it just like, I have so many questions. Was he coming to the prom? Like, did he bring the basketball with him? Did he just find it in the gym?
A lot of times the prom is at the gym,
Yes.
Jess, so you can get some, like, maybe some basketball in if things slow down.
Was the basketball the first choice for the Amazing Race partner? What's his relationship with the basketball? Has he been together with it longer than he has with Ashley?
Did he bring the basketball?
Yeah.
That's true. We talk about packing essentials. Was the basketball one of them?
Maybe he's been mentored by the Globetrotters, Jess.
That's possible. I feel like you can't ever go on The Amazing Race and have basketball be your shtick anymore. It's been done 3 times.
It's been done.
I mean, that's the thing, is I got the chance to ask some questions to these teams before they ended up racing. And it was so interesting because I asked what previous racers remind them of you the most. And talk about the staying power. The number of times I heard Globetrotters, Afghanimals, or Cowboys was the chief majority of all the teams.
You know what that means, Mike. That only means one thing. That just means that season 24 was the season they gave him to watch and sequester.
Why would they do that? There's so many others.
So that they feel grateful for the legs that they are given in this race. They're going to be on this course and say, wow, this is so much better than what they made me watch. I had very low expectations. They're setting the bar like in the basement.
Okay. So we had our teams get to the airport. We did have airports back. I would not say we had airport drama back this week. It was really just a line. They didn't know where the cutoff was going to be on the 2 flights. The second flight got sold out after 6 people. The teams all ended up heading to Thailand, Bangkok specifically. And then we had our detour this week, which was swordplay or spa day.
Yes, Thai massage known for a different type of Bangkok at the end of it.
Okay.
Hey, you can't be too careful with your company, Mike.
So this was, I thought, a very fun task for the Amazing Race, and interesting. Like, I can't remember anything that was exactly like this, of that you were going to basically have to endure this 30-minute painful spa treatment.
I can.
Yes, what do you got?
The coupling in season was that season 25 already? Yeah.
I think it was. And I also remember, I believe in season 14, when they went to China, they had like a similar painful shiatsu foot massage detour option as well.
I remember that. Yeah. But this detour, I kind of loved this because this was very clearly, they have looked at all of the rules that they've set up, like all of these kind of unspoken jail rules about what detour do you pick.
Yeah.
And they decided to completely troll everybody. because you're looking at these two options and you're thinking, okay, one of them is go to a spa and get a massage, and one of them is go learn this dance. And you're looking at those on the face, and we're doing some galaxy brain here. Like the lowest galaxy brain is like, oh, obviously I'm going to go get the massage. That's going to be easier. So then you go one deeper and you're like, but wait, the massage is probably very painful. And maybe if I go do this other one and I zag where everyone is zigging, I will get to go faster.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it turns
But no.
out they know you're going to think like that. They know that thought process is in place. So then they end up making the sword thing way, way harder.
Mhm.
And they basically push everybody into this one that takes everybody the exact same amount of time, which I think is wild. And it's really, the producers are doing like some 4D chess with us, the podcasters, and I'm totally here for it.
You're giving them so much credit.
I am, because I've seen them do this badly. I've seen
Yeah.
it go really badly, and I've seen them not think about it at all. And even down to like where these were located relative to each other and relative to the clue box, like this was very, very elegant. This was all, people thought that this was made for people that had expectations about what was going to happen, and then that was not what happened. And it was small, it was subtle, but I saw it. Like they're thinking about it, they're considering it, and I appreciate that more than not considering it. Like neither one of these sides was shave a balloon.
Yeah, I do wonder if there was consideration in making it a detour rather, because I think the big question coming in is like, why not just make this an outright task, or make this the other roadblock that the other team member has to do of endure the 30-minute massage? Because clearly this was the option they wanted. They loved the quad box of everyone grunting in pain as they had, everything laid into them. But I also wonder if it was more accommodating to like give teams an out. As we saw, unfortunately, one of the things that Alexandra and Sheridan will have go wrong for them is they were like, I don't want to be in that much pain and discomfort, so let me do something else. I do wonder if that ability to kind of go do this other thing, it's a bit of an example, Jess, of another sort of one-sided detour that happened back in old school Amazing Race, which is, hey, jump off this waterfall or walk all the way down. Most likely everyone's going to take one option, but let's provide the other option just for those people to not have to feel they need to be incredibly uncomfortable early on.
I mean, maybe, but in that case, why can only 5 teams do the massage? Because if they really wanted everybody to do the massage, they'd just have enough masseuses that everybody could do the massage.
Yeah. And if everybody does it and it takes 30 minutes to do it, I mean, only one person ended up tapping out, and it was kind of by accident. So I don't think that they really expected that to be a big part of it, where people were going to stop and have to start the whole thing over again. So I think that really part of the design was that there would be a quorum and people would be like, all right, let me go check out the other thing. And that would end up being a very bad decision.
Yeah, it was definitely, they know what the bad decision is going into it, which they don't always.
Yeah.
So I think they did want people to go do the swords. They wanted to see a little bit of both, and we got a little bit of both. But I think having the other half of that detour be so ridiculously hard that
well,
that was kind of the surprising thing.
The sword play. It was like there was like a choreography element to it. The sword was heavy. It was hard to do. There was judging, all things that you don't want, Jess.
Yeah, these are all things that and again, I would be thinking like 20 steps ahead and probably shooting myself in the foot for this, but I would be like, I'm just going to go do it. I'm going to go get it judged once, because it could be one of those situations where it's like, they just want you to do it. And here it was like, no, they were very precise about what they wanted you to do. And you couldn't really practice it because you were practicing with a piece of wood that didn't weigh the same as the sword.
Yeah.
Like I'm surprised nobody cut themselves, to be honest.
And that's the other thing is like, not only could you not keep this, like, not only did you not practice with the sword, after you failed, assumingly with the sword, you have to give it back. You have to go back to the training wheels, essentially. You can't train for the Tour de France on training wheels.
Okay. We talked about our tasks for this episode. I'd love to talk about the teams and bring them into a little bit more focus. And let's talk with the team that I am very sad to see out of the race. This is Alexandria and Sheridan. And they were super fun, I thought. And yeah, this was a real blindside for me. I thought they were going to be fine up until like late in the episode. And I even thought that they were the fake out 11th place team.
Yeah, I mean, I think not to spoil too much about Survivor 45's premiere, but it was not a good night on CBS reality for overly anxious super fans. I'll say that much. They seem so delightful. I think the ultimate irony is that these two are so in sync. They live together, they work together, they eat the same oatmeal for breakfast, and they get
Mhm.
eliminated because they were out of sync with literally everything else around them.
But always in sync with each other.
Yeah, this is an archetype I think we haven't seen much of in recent seasons, but it was like a mid-season staple, and they were
Mm,
frequently a team that did very, very well. Whereas like these siblings that are like maybe slightly more close than average
Mhm.
and like
Yeah.
both seemingly athletic and smart and know the show. So I would have had these people like I think if we had done a draft, I think they would have gone pretty
They
high.
would have been grenade because yeah, they would have
Yeah.
gone very high and then ultimately end up being a team that really was this bad luck? Was this a bad draw for them in terms of the tasks?
it's tough because they started out their race spending way too much time with that guy and his dog trying to get directions. Like let's remember they nearly got to the Biltmore, not the Sheridan, in last place basically because they had taken so long leaving the starting line. And I do think again that sense of anxiety and trepidatiousness that seemed natural, like Sheridan has so much giggly, anxious energy to him. It was very palpable, delightfully so. But still, that like you could tell these are people that wanted to mind their P's and Q's, make sure the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted, read your clue, et cetera, et cetera. And I think in this case, it really ended up putting them behind to the point where they, Rob, to your point, maybe they were sort of built up as the decoy, oh, you're not eliminated team in lieu of Elizabeth and Ileana. But at the same time, they were never really in front of anything at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got real pen holderness staring at the Amazing Race clue in the London Mail Tunnel energy, but
Mail
like
Rail.
for the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I think that this is maybe like their galaxy brain is what ultimately doomed them because they did really talk out what they were going to do on that detour. And I think if they'd just gone to the spa, if they'd gone straight to the spa, they probably would have been fine.
Well, I have some sympathy for them, especially that Alexandra seemed to really not like the idea of having a massage, and she had a bad experience with it. So I totally understand why they didn't want to go through it. And it's like, okay, well, we'll just go do the other thing. But in hindsight, it seems like it should have been an easier decision.
Yeah, it's tough because we even see with the roadblock, like, and they get the dodo music from the beginning, and there's that elongated period where they're like, "Do you want to do it? No, do you want to do it? No, I'm not sure." So their indecisiveness there worked against them, and then their decisiveness in the detour of like not even to consider the other option, let's go do the dance, ends up screwing them as well.
Hmm. Okay. So looking forward to getting to chat with them. Sad to see them go, but ultimately they end up being the first boot and not this team that I thought was going to be the first team out. Elizabeth and Ileana, who were bringing up the rear in Los Angeles and then also really struggled to find their way to get to the spa. They got there last. And then just, I thought they made a curious decision at the time, turned out to be the right one of, hey, well, we're in last place. Everybody is already in there. We can't get a spa appointment. Let's wait it out.
Well, here's a thing that I wasn't clear on that I think I would have, knowing the answer to this question would inform my decision. Were they allowed to ask how much time the earliest team had left? Because I think
Hmm.
that informs it. You are about a 20-minute walk from the other detour.
Sure.
And I think they don't know what's on the other side of that detour. They know how long this is going to take. And I think if it looked like at the time, and of course, editing, it could be anything here, but it looked like one of the teams had 13 minutes left. If they can
Hmm.
get in as soon as that team gets out, I think that is a safer bet than spending 20 minutes getting to this other half of the detour, doing question mark, and then resuming your race. I think you go with the known in that equation because you also know that other teams aren't there. We don't know what's going on at that detour. We can maybe gamble. I think the odds are slightly shorter on a team at the other detour screwing up so badly that you're still going to come out ahead.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's a sunk cost, I think, associated with this, considering that, as Ileana herself points out, there's the transit time, there's getting into the costumes, there's actually learning the thing, let alone performing it. I guarantee that would total much more than 30 minutes, which would be
Yeah.
at max the amount of time that you are waiting. I think this was a good move to make. In the end, it turned out, to your point, Rob, to be a race saving move, because it's a matter of, it's why I would rather be yielded than U-turned, because yields, you're just sitting out there waiting in a portion amount of time, rather than, to Jess's point, the unknown that exists with having to do an entire other half of the detour.
I think the hard part, and maybe the mental trap to stay out of, is that this is going to take 30 minutes no matter what. We're used to Amazing Race tasks where it's like, hey, I could get in there and maybe, catch lightning in a bottle, get lucky. We'll do the puzzle quick. We'll get it quick. And then we'll pass some of these other teams. There was no way to pass the other teams that were doing the task unless everybody just tapped out of the submission holds where that their 30 minutes could have gone by faster. So if you were at the bottom, it seemed, I did not see at the time how they were going to be able to pass the other teams, but ultimately the sword play just was so complicated that nobody could do it quicker than 30 minutes.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think
Yes.
you also, I didn't even consider that, it says in the instructions that if somebody taps out, they have to start over. It's like you can add that as a factor too. Like that kind of
They had
shortens those
some
odds
outs.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. The question is, where do we see this team going? I feel like there's two paths for the team that ends up like second to last in the first leg. Either they're just like easy cannon fodder, they're never going to get their footing and they just get eliminated in the next couple legs, or they become like what Emily and Molly were in last season, which was like slow going to start, but then really got their footing and became a front runner. Do we see either option for the mother-daughter team at this point?
I think they stick around a couple more legs. I don't think we see, I don't know if they've got winner upside. I don't know if they've got final leg upside, but I liked the tenacity for sure.
Okay. I'll be a little bit more of the pessimist. I didn't see anything in this episode that leads me to believe that they are about to turn it around, because they were doing so poorly on both halves of this season premiere. And I didn't see anybody else that seemed like that they were like really having so much trouble that it's not like, okay, well, there's actually, 4 teams that are really, any of them could be like, I feel like that the competency of the other teams, I feel like seems pretty high to average, and I feel like that they might be the at the bottom of the pack. So I'd be surprised if we're talking about where they're not, if not the team that's out next week, but in the mix to be out next week.
Fair, but I think we saw a couple of teams really, they had less go wrong for them, but the way they reacted to that stuff going wrong for them was really, really telling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think we got to talk about Joe and Ian in that case. Like, as soon as you start sniping at each other and calling each other babe, it's not going to be a good leg.
Yeah, this is a record for the babe getting dropped. I feel like that's usually something that appears like in the first, third of the game, not the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was they went from 0 to babe very, very quickly.
0 to babe. Yeah. Okay. All right. Then let's talk about then our 11th place finishing team, Chelsea and Robin, and they certainly a memorable backstory. But I have to say I don't have a lot about Chelsea and Robin and how they performed in this first episode of the Amazing Race.
Yeah, I agree. And it's interesting, when I interviewed them, they were one of the teams that pulled on the most amount of like gray matter, non-surface level, amazing racy stuff. They talked about Chuck and Millie, the dating 12 years
my God.
virgins. They talked about Kim and Allie even, which I feel like is still a bit of a throwback compared to, again, the sources that we usually go to for teams. So I was rooting for them. And we always want, women teams to succeed on this show. I had no idea about Chelsea's story. Good God. Or was it Robin's story, I think? My goodness. What an absolute tragedy. So I'm so happy they're on this show for the purpose that they stated, which was like wanting to show people that like, just because you think your life might be over doesn't mean that it needs to be. I think that's such a beautiful message. I hope they get more time for us to just see them
Yeah.
on the screen because there wasn't a lot outside of that.
And just in case, I know we have folks that listen to the podcast and maybe don't always watch the episodes. So Robin, that her husband, I believe of 12 years, had been complaining he wasn't feeling well. They took him to the hospital. He got diagnosed with leukemia. 2 months later, he passed. After her husband passed, she then was diagnosed that she herself had a brain tumor, which then had to be operated on. And it was then a successful operation. And so she has this, very, sad, but also a lot that she's overcome to be here on The Amazing Race. And Chelsea has helped her through all of that. So really incredible backstory that we got. Just not a ton on the screen in episode number 1.
It's hard to say what they're going to be like as racers, although they are physical beasts.
Yeah.
Like, I was really impressed. Like, the shot of them in the intro, like, you don't really clock it like watching them race, but then they show them in the intro like flexing, and it's like that's formidable.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So by my math, and let's get to our 10th place team. Okay. This is Andrea and Milena.
Talk about going from like 0 to 60, 0 to Babe, I suppose, in terms of like a team we barely get to know versus a team we saw a lot of, because Milena in particular is beautiful television.
She is incredible. I think both of them are going to be great, but Milena is just like, she's at an 11 all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah. Well, 10 this episode.
She's really driving, like, every decision, like, she is making that decision, and she is decisive, and whatever she says they are gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's like, we want to do the sword play because we're gonna soar today, and then immediately she's like, we're not doing that, we're doing the massages.
It was fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, they were super fun. Certainly, they had a better time getting through the Los Angeles leg of this premiere than they did in Thailand, after being the first team to then opt out of the spa day to go do swordplay.
Yeah, and then immediately realizing their mistakes. And look, they had enough wiggle room to be able to still fall to the back of the pack, but still like land in a comfortable enough position. I do have some trepidation for them. Sadly, we know that as Andrea was crossing the tightrope, she's like, oh boy, if it's a word puzzle, I'm not entirely sure. Milena talks about how her memory is not so good. So I do fear if we're getting to some of those more mental elements, especially when #killer fatigue ends up setting in, it could be something that ends up being their undoing. But no matter how long they last on television, I adore this. You know, the low energy, high energy dynamic is one that I am always hungry for on The Amazing Race. And not to say that Andrea is low energy, but like she says, like, it takes a while for her to come out of her shell. Milena has never seen a shell during her entire life.
Okay. All right. That's Andrea and Milena, their team number 10. Let's talk about team number 9, which is, okay, here's the aforementioned Ian and Joe.
Babe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was not expecting, like, if you're looking at all the teams on paper, I'm not expecting this to be the team that gets into arguments, but they're already kind of a hot mess.
I'm sure, I guarantee these two are like head over heels in love with each other, are ready to get married and start a beautiful life together as a couple. On The Amazing Race, it seems like they detest each other, just from the disparate personalities. And again, that's something that I love about the show. It came across definitely in the press I did before the season, where like they were snarking back and forth at each other a lot. And it could be perceived at times as like, ooh, these are some low blows. But it seems like both of them have thick enough skin that they understand, like, when it's happening, it's more so out of sarcasm than it is out of like actual antipathy and hatred of one another. So I think this will be the case where like it will be our arguing couple of the season, but it's not done out of like vitriol that we have experienced from previous couples on the race.
Yeah, some people, that's just how they talk to each other.
Exactly.
Like,
yes.
This is their love language.
Yeah, no comment. So, yeah, I felt like that they got out to a hot start in Los Angeles, and then had a little bit more struggles on the Thailand side of things.
I don't know. They were first to arrive to the roadblock at the Biltmore, and then we're last to arrive at the airport. That is a wild fall over the course of one task and navigating to and from said place.
Was it the navigation or the word puzzle?
A little of both.
Yeah.
They middle of the pack on the word puzzle, but then they got lost on the way to the airport.
Mm-hmm.
And I did love them snarking like, well, this gives us an excuse for nobody to U-turn us right now. Nobody sees us as a threat.
Yeah, I have concerns about a team that gets lost on the way to LAX because I feel like that's an Amazing Race 101. Almost every race takes off from Los Angeles. You're going to probably need to get yourself to the airport, familiarize yourself with the roads.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I think you take the 101 to the 405.
They're New Yorkers, not Californians. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
I will say, though, they made one of the best moves of this episode in basically glomming onto Alexandra and Sheridan's practice session rather than waiting for, them to take a turn and then Joe and Ian to step in. They're like, no, screw this. We're in the back. We're going to do this ourselves. And they were the only team that was adept to do this task to the point where they did it in one freaking try. That is highly commendable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have teams where I think like their stats are really loaded on one category. Like there's teams that are really highly loaded with luck and their navigation and their tasks are not up to snuff. These guys might be really front loaded with task points, stats. Did they roll a 20 on tasks? That's what, that's what
Okay.
I'm saying.
All right. So then let's talk about the brothers, Liam and Jeremy. I really like these guys.
I like them. I was surprised, given their archetype, that they did not do as well in this first leg as I would have predicted. I think had we done some sort of draft going into this, I think Liam and Jeremy would have been a team that I would have picked early. They reminded me a lot of Michael and Marcus in that background of brothers who know each other very well and military experience, which involves a lot of travel and navigation and being out of your comfort zone. So it feels like the perfect DNA for the Amazing Race. And the fact of the matter is, like, they did okay to not so okay over the course of this leg.
I feel like the difference is that Michael and Marcus were like, yeah, we're brothers. We're both in the military. We don't know each other. We are like, there's a big age gap between us. And this is going to be our chance to get to know each other, where I feel like that Liam and Jeremy, I feel like, are very close.
Yeah, they seem like they said they weren't close as children because they had a traumatic upbringing, but as adults, they've become very close. And they're closer in age, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
they said that they became very close in the last 5 years.
Yeah, so they've already made that step. They're like, Michael and Marcus were doing that on the race, and these guys have already done that part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Other than that, though, kind of a quiet premiere for Liam and Jeremy.
Yeah, they never really surged out into the front at all. They were always kind of in that like 7 to 11 range throughout, and nothing caused them to fall incredibly behind at any point. So they were able to maintain that stability. And listen, stability, consistency is arguably the thing you most want as an Amazing Race team. So it's only been one leg, but I feel like they were one of the most consistent teams throughout said leg.
Yeah. Okay. So there's Liam and Jeremy, and thought they were pretty fun here in episode number 1. Okay, let's talk about our 7th place team. It's Garrett and Joel. Army buddies.
Yeah, these guys were standouts this leg, I feel like. We
Yes.
saw a lot of them. Oh, okay. We saw a lot of Joel. We didn't see a lot of Garrett.
Yeah,
we saw a lot of the beard and not the mustache.
Which is interesting because Garrett feels like he was, if I'm sort of projecting their story, he was the Amazing Race super fan that wanted to get on the show and kind of brought Joel along. He tells this story about like watching it on the Armed Forces Network, which is maybe why they get so many military people on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like a very military-heavy season.
Interesting. Shout out to anybody listening from the Armed Forces Network about our Amazing Race coverage.
Yeah.
Big part of the Amazing Race audience, I guess. So who was it that had their anniversary that they got shipped out on when they got married, and then ultimately now are missing their 20-year anniversary?
Yeah, so that was Joel. So Garrett is the one with the beard. Joel is the one with the mustache. That's how you remember him.
Okay. So they are missing important milestones in their relationships to hang out with each other, a true bromance. And so it was anything moments that were standouts from episode number 1 for these guys?
We got We got him wondering if angels was a word. That was a
Mhm.
standout moment.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that was very fun between these two guys. Sorry, I can't because names are flip flop. Yeah, I think Garrett is the. I'm trying to remember which is
Garrett is the mustache and Joel is the
Garrett is the
beard.
mustache and
Because Joel
Joel's the
did the
beard.
roadblock and he was the one wondering if angels was a word.
Yes, that's what it
Mhm.
was. Okay, the names are flip flopped in this graphic. Joel is the beard. Garrett is the mustache. I also liked. I mean, Jess, this was an archetype you defined back in the blog days of RHAP. The like good old boys who never have really been outside of the country. They obviously have been being deployed to Iraq and Kuwait, but this is sort of like our Mark and Bopper, David and Mary adjacent type, where I think Joel was the one that was like, I've
Yeah.
never been to Asia before.
They come from different backgrounds too. That Garrett has a mustache and Joel has a beard.
We
They
never thought
couldn't
they'd
be
get
more
along.
different.
Yeah, they couldn't be more different.
It's the facial hair of Romeo and Juliet.
Okay, all right. There's Garrett and Joel. Okay, let's talk about Anna Lee and Steve. This was another pair that I liked. This is father and daughter, right? Steve and Anna.
Yeah, it's a pair we don't necessarily dote on a lot. You know, not a lot of mothers and sons, not a lot of fathers and daughters. But Anna Lee is not just your pretty pageant girl. She is someone that has roughed it outdoors and is ready to break some nails and maybe break some other things in the process of getting that $1 million prize.
Yeah, don't sleep on Anna Lee, who really was. Anna Lee was really great on going across the tightrope, right?
Yeah, she was moving about twice the speed of everybody else on the tightrope.
Yeah. So yeah, we didn't see a ton from Steve in this episode. He didn't have any opportunities to shine yet, but pretty strong finish here for Annalie and Steve to get things started. Sixth place.
Yeah, I think considering that Steve is the oldest person on the season, I believe, it should be interesting. I think Steve is going to be like the strong silent type. I feel like we'll go to him for a couple of sound bites, but that's about
A
it.
real
I like,
Rancher Rick type.
yeah, I liked. He has even the hat to do that. I like this episode when he said, "Dynamite comes in small packages" when discussing his daughter.
Does it?
I guess so. I
Mhm.
can't tell if like he is really huge or she is really tiny.
Could be
Like
both.
objectively, yeah, it
Mhm.
could be both. But I need to see them standing next to other teams to ascertain
Okay, or
what is
Phil.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or Phil.
Okay.
We know how tall Phil is, so
All right. Then let's talk about our fifth place team. It's Ashley and Todd, the aforementioned Ashley and Todd. And we talked about the move that Todd had to cut the line. We referenced the moment where Todd stopped the massage. Now, I thought this was a little ticky tack that he said to the masseuse, wait, 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 wait. And they're like, you said stop the massage. I was like, I don't know.
I feel like you need to safe word that massage.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like they had to do something to give some sort of stakes to it.
No.
And in their defense, I think if someone told me, wait, 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 I would take that as a sign of no consent and stop what I was doing immediately.
I agree with Jess. I think they needed a safe word.
I think if they did, it would be like the name of the pit stop, and then nobody would be able to pronounce it. And so then they never stop the massage.
Yeah, that's the word to get 5 extra minutes onto your massage.
But yeah, this is a really, really fun pair. This is someone I flagged as entertaining from the interviews I did, where they went on this like extended rant about how Todd can always land people's numbers no matter what situation he's in, and how he's always like the life of the party. Like he'll drag Ashley to this party where he won't know anybody, and then they'll be like, let's all do speeches, and Todd will be like, I'll volunteer to go first. Like this man is outgoing to end all outgoing.
This would be my nightmare.
Well, I think it'll be really interesting, though, in a more social, strategic version of the Amazing Race in this season with something like the U-turn. I think that's something that could help them, and that it seems like they are ready to get on with other teams, certainly eager for cooperation, even if it works to their detriment. On the other hand, they are a very big sense of personalities, and that could be a reason why they also stick out for other people.
I'm calling it now. Todd is most likely from this cast to appear on the challenge.
On the challenge, okay.
Oh.
Yes. This might be his
the basketball challenge.
Yes. Jess, have you kept up with the challenge?
It's one of those ones I put on in the background while I'm doing busy work.
There was some interesting Amazing Race drama that happened on Challenge USA season 2.
I observed, like,
between some standouts of ours from previous seasons of The
Yeah.
Amazing
I heard
Race.
it was going to the dogs. So
Yeah, I
Yeah.
heard the dog is not so loyal, according to the Challenge USA.
Yes, and I heard on a season of Australian Survivor, Mike, if you want loyalty, get a dog.
Exactly. So there's a lot of discerning statements involving canines here. But no matter what, Todd is the big dog, I suppose, in this pair. And the question is, how many of these people are cat people and how many of them are ready to bring on another pet?
Okay. All
yeah,
right.
I would say we talked a little bit earlier about them not getting along. Um, and I think the fact that they did almost split up and did the work and came back around, I think that's actually going to make them less likely to cause drama in with each other. Because you do see at one point Todd is giving Ashley a note. And
Mm-hmm.
I've not seen that happen in a few seasons. And she appears to just take it like they're using like their marriage counseling language to speak to each other
Mm-hmm.
in that way. And I don't see them blowing up at each other. I see them like maybe internalizing it and seething silently if they get really annoyed with each other, but they're going to use I statements and be very proactive.
Yeah, it might be the Joe and Ian thing of like, it may not work for everyone, but it does work for us.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about our fourth place team. It's Morgan and Lena, the holders of the Express Pass. They ate some bugs. I happened to have been eating when I was watching this Amazing Race. Did not appreciate. Like I just started eating right when they got to the Express Pass, and it was yeah, pretty gross. I guess, Mike. I guess anytime you're in Thailand on reality TV, you got to eat some tarantulas.
Yeah, and Lena was sort of the Helen Glover, right? Like barking at her sister, being like, you eat that right now. Rob, must have been a throwback for you as well, right? Getting to eat bugs in your own respective Survivor season.
Yeah, but it wasn't anything that was super gross like that. This was like pretty disgusting.
I don't know. These seemed at least well prepared. It's not like the butong from Borneo where you're like eating a live piece of larvae. These at least
No,
seemed
and they were fried. I
prepared in
guess you
some
could
way.
fry anything.
Exactly. That proves that first and foremost. So, yeah, Lena and Morgan are an interesting pair of sisters, perhaps unlike Liam and Jeremy. Like, they know each other, but their personalities are not exactly simpatico. At least, I think the big goal of this team is that Morgan wants to be considered a peer instead of the little sister. And Lena has the biggest big sister energy we've ever seen on The Amazing Race.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some BSE for sure.
Okay, but they seem like really capable. I wouldn't be surprised to see them do very well in this season.
Yeah, and now they have an out in the Express Pass that they could use basically at any time if they see a task that they like explicitly can't do. So anytime they do feel like spiraling or they're not seeing eye to eye on a certain task, they have a get out of jail free card.
Yeah. Lena watched 27 seasons of The Amazing Race in only 2 months. It's pretty good.
Yeah, but there's way more than 27.
Yeah.
Call me when you've been through all 34 plus the international versions.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. All right. Then let's go ahead and talk about, okay, Greg and John. Okay. More brothers that are here in this season. Okay. Greg and John had a pretty good start to the race. I had a great start to get things going in Los Angeles. And then ultimately third place in Bangkok, but pretty good. These guys have got to be favorites.
Goes to show how much of an idiot I am. Here Greg is looking at this map with the letters and he's like, I got it. It's the name of our next destination, City of Angels. And I was like, you dolt. You absolute moron. You're in the City of Angels. We know you're flying after this. Why do you think you're staying here? And it turns out that after, lavishing praise onto the heights of Derek and Claire, he was right. So again, what do I know? I really like these two. They're definitely on the brainier side of things, right? Software engineer, probably contributing to your beloved Chat GPT, Rob and Greg. John, I think, said that he works for Google. And I think that they are a really fun group team that also has some personality as well. So I think despite them not necessarily being the brawniest, I do think they were able to like navigate things really well, both literally and metaphorically.
Yeah, I did want to ask, did the two of you pause the show and try to do the word scramble?
I did not. Usually I'm pretty good at those things and I can usually figure them out, but no, I was not able to get it and I did not pause to try to like write it down on a piece of paper.
I think that
Yeah,
was the hard part of that, was that you couldn't do that.
right.
But
That was what we
Mhm.
saw happen with Joe, was like he got there and like you could pick out O and F, but your brain is so mush at that point that you're trying to say, okay, but I already used O and F. And the fact that the letters were written in alphabetical order, I think also kind of like put your mind in a tizzy. Again, I really think it was a well executed puzzle, and good on Greg's comprehensive word search knowledge for him to be able to figure that out all on his own, one of the only teams to do so.
Okay. All
yeah,
right.
I
Let's
mean,
talk
I do
about.
the New York Times spelling bee every day, so
Ooh.
I was not bad at this.
Okay. Team number 2 turns out to be Corey and Rob. And what a great start to the race for Corey and Rob. A really, really nice story about what it's like for Corey to be the son of deaf parents. And we had some nice moments with Phil at the starting line that it really threw me for a loop, where Phil says, Rob, what are you excited about this season? I was like, oh, hey, Phil. Are we are we no,
Wait,
he
this is
and
a Tough as Nails podcast where he'll just
yeah, I
randomly
was like,
pop
"Do I
on
have
and ask
another
you a
tab
question?
open somewhere?" No. And yeah, and so he got the sign to Phil that he was just excited to see Phil.
Yeah, and I mean, something that I had the great pleasure of talking with Bertram Van Munster and Elise Ogunyeri and Phil during a Paley Center panel. And I did ask, because it is, of course, the hot topic on CBS Reality now, about like how Rob would be accommodated on the race. Because you talk about season 24, that's the last time we had a deaf contestant on the show in Luke. And we even saw this on the screen when Rob was doing the roadblock, that there is a translator that is going to be
Mhm.
there at every single site, which I think is a great source of accommodation for him.
Yeah. And I think that people might be sleeping on them, but they do also seem like that they could be standouts here in this season. Let's talk about our first place team, first team to arrive, and maybe an unlikely pair to be our leaders here after one leg. It's the grocery store managing couple, Jocelyn and Victor.
I love Jocelyn and
Mhm.
Victor.
They're
Yeah.
so fun. They're so great.
They would have been drafted like dead freaking last if we'd done a draft, and they're amazing. Like,
Yeah.
and not only are they great at everything they do, you can tell it's going to be one of those situations where we're just going to have random ass tasks, and they are going to have already done it at some point in their life. Like, Victor comes out of here speaking Thai. Like, we see people speak Spanish, we see people speak Mandarin. I've never seen someone come on here like just bust out Thai. That's fantastic. They are
Mhm.
really funny as well. And
Yeah.
like Victor in particular, like every one-liner I wrote down from this entire episode, they all came from him.
Yeah.
He's the greatest, and I want them to stick around
Can
for
you
the
share
entire
one or
race.
two that you have from Victor?
Yes, I have them talking about working together,
Hmm.
and he says, when you work with your spouse, you can't be like, oh, can you believe that idiot coworker I have? Oh, wait, it's you. I like that. I enjoyed him saying, this is easier than giving birth to your child on the bathroom floor, right? Like,
Yes,
just
Yeah,
yes.
and
throwing
A
that in
harrowing
there.
tale.
and
Yeah.
I
Yes.
don't think about, in my opinion, I don't think we even needed the follow up from Jocelyn. Just the image alone, like, I guess yes, that is the case. I adore this team for all the reasons Jess said, plus the fact that like they do have a narrative as well, that these have been work spouses as well as personal spouses, but they've been focusing more as the work spouses for the past bit of time. They run this grocery store together. They work pretty much 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, but they're using the Amazing Race as an opportunity to like almost fall back in love with each other. They've lost that love and feeling, and they're hoping to be the top gun at the end of this.
Yeah. Okay. Jocelyn and Victor, do we think that they can maintain this? Or is this one and done? A
I
flash
hope
in the
so.
pan?
I'm really optimistic about them. Um, I hope that we see more of them, but on the other hand, like, I feel like it's kind of cursed. Like, I like them too much for them to do super well.
But I
Mhm.
don't know. The team that finished in first place in the last season were Derek and Claire, and there is it happens sometimes where we see the winner of the first leg certainly put a stamp on the season. I mean, look, optically speaking, this will be obviously not great to say, but like I see a lot of Hung and Chi in Jocelyn and Victor. They even compare themselves to them in my interview. And we saw with Hung and Cheek, they surprised us in season 32 of like, oh, they're actually doing really well. And look at them. They were one king cake baby away from winning the Amazing Race 32. So I see nothing but the sky for Jocelyn and Victor.
Yeah, lavender's a lucky color if you look back to last season too.
Yeah.
Okay. Jess, I know you're up against it schedule-wise. Anything else that you want to say? We haven't even gotten to Mike's plugs yet.
Yeah, Mike's plugs are going to take a while, so I'm going to give my plugs and then I'm going to peace out. But I'm
Okay.
going to
Wait,
throw.
just give a winner pick, Jess, since we didn't do a draft after watching this first leg.
Well, I feel like the winner pick is always tainted if you've seen the first leg because you can just pick the winners of the leg. I would not have picked Jocelyn and Victor going into this premiere, but I feel like I have to now. Like I love them. That's who I want to win. So I'm going to go with who I want to win. I haven't shown it to George yet. My answer might change once I find out who he wants to win.
George Stradamus, yes.
Mhm.
Yes, George Stradamus. He's 4 for 4. I want to add in Phil seemed a little off his game. There was a
Okay.
point like when he eliminated the team, he was stumbling over what he was saying, like there are no non-elimination legs. I think he was trying to give a spiel from a different part of the episode. And then at the beginning, he made the curious choice to say, once again, the express pass is back up for grabs. And I'm like, get that probst nonsense out of here, buddy.
Mhm.
Yeah, Phil did seem, at least from what I could hear, like a little sick. I think maybe it's this idea of like no longer being on the amazing charter plane made you open to some contaminants, some pathogens on commercial travel, but he seemed a little low energy in the first pit stop. So hopefully he feels better
A
soon.
little bit. Yep. So yeah, and then what else is going on for me right now? Walking Dead Daryl Dixon over on Post Show Recaps. We are covering that, and I got to review the whole season for Variety.com, which was very fun. And we're
Nice.
about halfway through Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, loving it. It's our favorite Walking Dead content in a really long time, and especially episode 3, I highly recommend. The cold open of episode 3 has one of the weirdest zombie things I've ever seen. So it's
Okay.
good stuff.
And you were high on Dead City too. So
Yeah, I'm
this
higher
is
on this. This is like better
Wow.
than Dead City.
wow. Okay. All right. Well, Jess, you and I are going to have our exit interview coming up on Thursday. So everybody stay tuned for that. And Jess, we'll talk to you next week.
All right. See you next
All right.
week.
Take care. Bye. Okay. Mike, how about for you? Do you have a winner pick coming out of this?
Yeah, listen, maybe I'm sucking kneecaps, but I got to go with the namesake of the other person on this call here. I'm going to go Corey and Rob.
Corey and Rob.
I
Okay. Good one.
Because I do think that, I had some questions that Rob is one of the older people on this season. And I wondered, like, obviously, Corey is going to be able to stay in it. Can Rob keep up? And he was able to do so. I don't really see anything they really did wrong in this entire leg. They pretty much were at the front the entire time. And I do think there is an advantage in a parent child relationship where they get like various
Because
life
one is the
experiences.
parent and one is the child.
Exactly. No, Jess said, get that prosty nonsense out of here. But there's this idea that like Rob has a lot of life experience, and I think
You better believe he does.
a lot of skills gained therein that he can then impart onto his son. I think Corey also vocalized the fact that they have a very different relationship than a usual parent-child team, and that their a communication is obviously going to be the key. Not to mention they can certainly utilize the idea of communicating in sign language to talk non-verbally with one another, which helps in certain challenges where any ability to talk with one another is removed. So I think they just have a lot of really good skills. Like Jess said with Jocelyn and Victor, I would be really happy with them winning as well. And so I do think that this is a really competent team that is in it to win it.
Okay. I have two that I'm sort of torn between, and so um I'll shake it up a little bit. And so I'll tell you my two that I'm torn between are Greg and John and Morgan and Lena. I'm worried if I say Morgan and Lena that people are gonna say, "Oh, they got the express pass, that's why you're gonna pick them." So I will say I'll go with Greg and John officially.
I think much like I said with Robin and Corey, like they didn't really do anything wrong. They fell slightly behind, in the navigation in Thailand, but then they caught up pretty quickly. So I think this is again, I think all three of the top teams really
Yeah.
did a really good job of staying again that much sought after consistency in the first leg of the race, and hopefully they apply it to the next, I don't know, 10 or 11
Right.
that come after it.
Maybe there's something I'm not seeing here, but it's like young guys, good shape, get along, smart, they travel a lot. Like I'm not seeing where the flaw is here with Greg and John.
And I could also see a possible alliance brewing between our two runner picks, Rob. We saw that scene at the airport where John revealed that he had been learning ASL through online classes. And
Yes.
I could see something. We saw this in the Amazing Race Canada, not to speak too out of turn with Jess, but there were two teams that had each experienced like their own significant tragedies in their own way. And they actually were interlinked and like knowing certain things about each other. And they decided to work together. And that worked all the way until the end of the race. I could see that playing out here as well.
Okay. Mike, anything else about the Amazing Race 35 premiere?
No, I'm really happy that it's back. I'm really, really happy that a lot of these older school elements were back. As I said before, absence makes the heart grow fonder. And so I am fond of bringing back the Express Pass and that inevitable U-turn vote. I think it's going to spice up the race in a way that it hasn't in quite a while. Again, this felt like a return to form in many ways. I think I still could have had a bit more from the task proper, but I think Jess made some really salient points as to their utility. And look, if episodes moving forward are going to try to put more stuff in, knowing that there's 30 minutes of extra content, I'm happy about it. I think this episode did its job in introducing us to get to know all 13 teams in at least some way, shape, or form. Now that that formality is out of the way, we can really, I think, focus on the race and move on.
Okay, Mike, what's coming up for you?
So much. Oh my God, Rob, you and I are we're dog paddling right now. We're treading water. We have just gotten started because, of course, at the time this is being released, the Survivor 45 premiere will have aired
Mhm.
as well. I did a comprehensive amount of preseason stuff. There are interviews with each and every castaway. You and I reviewed the castaways. I did interviews with Jeff Probst. I did a piece where when I was on set in Fiji earlier this year, I talked with about 7 or 8 members of production behind the scenes, what I call the next generation in the new era of Survivor.
Mhm.
So if you're into behind the scenes stuff, check that out. And even now, I have at this point a postmortem on the premiere with Jeff Probst, where he talks all about everything that happened there. A couple of tidbits as well as to stuff that didn't happen in the episode that Jeff discusses in the On Fire podcast. And that's not even to mention the fact that tomorrow, in addition to talking with Alexandra and Sheridan, I will be speaking with the first person booted from Survivor 45, as I will every week. And I'll be doing the B&B with Liana Boris. We are officially back, and we're bringing on Dwight Moore from Survivor 43. It's a
That's
week
fun.
for Survivor. Yeah, Survivor 43 alumni are having a week
Mhm.
here on RHAP. And then outside of that, it is still humming strong. We just have revved up Survivor in the Amazing Race, but the motors that have been Big Brother and the Challenge have been running for quite some time. This Friday, I'll have the chance to speak with the person that will officially be leaving the Big Brother house for real this time on Big Brother 25, and the most recent people that are cast out on the Challenge USA Season 2 before we get into the final. And then over on post show recaps, I'm finishing up coverage of Ahsoka. I talked The Boys Gen V for a little bit. That's coming out on Friday, spinoff of the Amazon Prime series. Taking a break from Battlestar Galactica for a couple of weeks, but everything else is going pretty dang full throttle. In case this
Full tilt
hasn't
boogie. Fall tilt boogie.
full tilt boogie. Again, get the propsy nonsense out of here. And again, I'll give one more plug for something that still is evergreen, despite the fact that an episode of The Amazing Race 35 has aired. If you go to the Paley Center for Media's YouTube channel, you can check out the panel discussion I got to have with Bertram Van Munster, Elise Ogunyeri, co-creators of The Amazing Race, and of course our friend Phil Kogan. We talked about the origin of the show, making the show about travel in the wake of 9/11 at a time where people were least likely to want to explore corners of the world, what they've learned over 20 plus years of doing the show, and how they prepared season 35 in all its different ways. I am so grateful to CBS for giving me this opportunity. It was an absolute surreality for me. So I am so thankful if people want to check it out. It's over on the Paley Center for Media's YouTube channel. All of this stuff I put out there on social media at a Mike Bloom type, which is also my cameo. If this is any indication, I will dress up in stupid outfits for
Mhm.
you if you pay me enough money. If that for some reason wets your whistle, feel free to go in there and put a request in.
All right. Mike, great being back with you to talk some Amazing Race. Of course, check out all of our coverage of around Survivor, Big Brother, Buddy Games, The Challenge, Amazing Race, and more here all in one place. You can find links to all of our podcast feeds. robisawebsite.com/subscribe. Thank you for joining us. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.